This time I'll call upon you the Board of Commissioners regular board meeting on March 26th to order, and ask the marshal to bring the list forward, please. You have your cell phone on, as I did this morning. We'll silence it. Thanks, sir. And we are very honored tonight to have the presentation of the colors by Cub Scout Pack 750. However, hold on just a second, because our Commissioner Hart is going to lead us in a word of prayer. Thank you, Greg.
Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we do thank you for letting us be here today, Lord Jesus. We thank you for all that you've provided for us as individuals and as a county, Lord. Just help us as we get up here to stay unified, Lord, and make good decisions, Lord. Lord, I just pray your wisdom and your discernment on everything that we look at today and going forward. Thank you once again, and protect us, Lord. In your name we ask you. Amen.
Scout is ribbon. Scout's attention. Scout salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pat 750. It means so much to us to have you here. Actually, to adopt the March 12th, 2019 work session minutes and the March 12th, 2019 board meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Commissioner Stover. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hart. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries 5-0. Just another reminder, as we said this morning, we'll have a town hall meeting on March 28, 2019 at 7 p.m. at Stars and Stripes. We have no invited guests. Under bid awards, action to approve the chairman to enter into an agreement with Kelly Landscapes Management Incorporated for the roadside right-of-way turf maintenance services contract in the amount of $168,615.40. The contract provides for finish mowing, string trimming, edging, and litter pickup of approximately 66 acres, 10.5 of which is in the median, and 55.44 acres on the roadside shoulders on various county roads. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Caker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Davis. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 5-0. There are no reports from committees and departments tonight. There is public petition. We'll talk tonight. Public participation on agenda items. We have Ms. Sue Wilkins speak on new business number 1.
Tom, did you decide? Am I able to?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. It's regarding zoning. I was at today's zoning board meeting and did not address my questions and concerns at that time. I needed time to think. So thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Two things. Under light industrial, I don't recall anyone today speaking about the type of industry that would include. What potential industry could come in under that. I'm very concerned about the airport neighbors. They have to deal with a whole lot of noise, inconvenience, and imposition as it is. The thought of loud industry coming in seems like, just concerns me. So what I would like to suggest is a stipulation be attached to this rezoning, and that be that a substantial buffer of trees be left around the circumference of the airport in order to minimize some of the noise that could potentially come from some of these potential industrial businesses. I know that Mr. Tibbetts plans on clear cutting 450 acres inside the wildlife fence. He told me that himself. So trees they play a big part in cutting down the noise. And so if there's any area around the circumference that has not already been taken down, or even if it has, be allowed to grow up again in order to help these neighbors out. I mean, the stuff they have to deal with, like the people in Clear Creek, I mean, they deserve to be protected from this airport in any way they can be. So I ask you to consider adding a stipulation. That's it. Thank you.
Under the consent agenda item, it's actually to approve the 2 consent agenda items that were read this morning. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Davis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Caker. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Carries 5-0. We have no old business. On the new business, number 1 is action for the Board of Commissioners to advance release the July 1st, 2019 payment of $137,500 to the Paulding County Airport Authority to assist them with their financial obligations required in the FAA grant assurances. Do I hear a motion?
Make that motion, Dan.
Motion approved by Commissioner Hart. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Caker. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, so can we get some clarity, just for finance's sake, on how we're viewing this payment? Are we viewing this as an early payment or an additional payment?
Commissioner Hart made the motion. You want to clarify that?
Yes, sir. It's, we're going to stick with it as an early payment.
How are we going to handle that next year?
We've got actually, how many months? It's 2 months, 3 months?
For the new
Right, but next year, we've got $270,000 that needs to be paid. Are we going to budget half of that for next year then?
Well, that's going to be in our discussion when we formulate that discussion. It'll be in there then.
Okay, so we're not, so as of right now, and I'm, just for clarity, we're making the July payment immediately, or as soon as is feasibly possible, and then there's not a payment in July.
My motion is to make it like this, like it's written here.
Okay.
Now, if you would like to, we vote on it, or if you want to make another motion, then.
I want to understand, so that we all are on the same page. I don't think there's an argument about where we're going with issuing some funds. I think I want to be sure that I want to be sure that everybody knows if we're issuing this tonight, then July 1, there's no check to be cut. Is that and that's how I read this. Is that how you intended the motion?
Yes, sir.
Any other comments or questions? Any other discussion?
we can issue this as an early payment, and I appreciate we've had a good conversation, Chuck. The reality is, this is gonna become an extra payment. You know, I don't want to make the payment. Actually made the comment this afternoon that I don't care to vote in favor of this. But the reality is, my job here is to vote in the best interest of the county, and the best interest of the county is the bills get paid. You know, I may be voting yes for different reasons than some others. I don't know. I haven't spoken to all of you, but that's just how I feel about this. We need to work forward and get and look to see what we want to do with that airport going forward, and whether we want to make a department or redo an IGA, or we won't do that. And if this is going to be an early payment, then we need to be diligent about that, because July 1 they're going to need more money, and they're not going to be due more money until January.
And just to reread the action, there was action for the Board of Commissioners to advance release the July 1st payment at this time. So you can use early, you can use advance release.
Well, I guess the point that I'm making is that we need to make sure that we understand that July 1, when Terry needs more money, Terry's not getting more money unless we advance release another check to him, or we redo IGA, or we bring them in as a department. So we have a timeline. We have a timeline on that, and that's advance or early. I mean, I think.
No, that's correct. But we'll go ahead and take care of this now, and then that gives us, like you said, we need to be diligent about making sure that we make provisions, future provisions.
Any other discussion? Brian, you sound like you had something else you wanted to add.
Probably, no, I mean,
Okay. All right, let's vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. New business number 2 is action to adopt Resolution 19-08, authorizing the execution of professional development training expense reimbursement agreement for the fire department. And I will make a motion that we do that.
I will second your motion.
Second by Commissioner Davis. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. New business number 3 is action to approve the relocation of the Veterans Memorial from its present location on Watson Drive to a new location in Veterans Park, and authorize funding in the approximate amount of $18,200. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Stover. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cager. Cager, is there any discussion on that? I would like to say a big thank you to Scott Green and the work that he's done on this, the evaluation of various options and the multiple contracts that it would take to make this happen. And the fact that the price I originally heard was twice what it is on this motion tonight. And I know that this is going to be a location for this monument that a lot more people will be able to appreciate and, you know, to reverently remember what it stands for. So, just real thrilled with this. Anybody else have any comments?
Well, I think this is what our veterans want, so we need to do the best we can to get it for them.
Yeah. I hate to lose it at my post over to Sandy, but I think it fits better here.
Okay, any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries 5-0. New business number 4. Okay. Number 4 is action for the Board of Commissioners to approve the 2019 Paulding County Speed Detection Device Permit List of roads, Paulding County numbers 02-2819. Do I hear a motion on that one?
I'll make the motion, we approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Davis. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Stover. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 5-0. Number 5 is action to approve a supplemental agreement in the amount of $45,050 with Atkins North America Incorporated for construction engineering and inspection services for an additional 520 hours. Do I hear a motion? Make a motion that we approve the supplemental agreement. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Davis. Is there any discussion?
Make lunch.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 5-0. New business number 6 is action to award the horizontal directional drilling of an 8-inch HDPE water main under Pumpkin Vine Creek at Mount Olivet Road to Benton, Georgia LLC with a cost not to exceed $90,955.73.
I'll make a motion.
Make a motion. A motion made by Commissioner Hart. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Stover. Is there any discussion? What does HDPE stand for?
High density polyethylene.
Wow, impressed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Number 7 is the action to adopt resolution 19-09 confirming executive session for the purpose of real estate pending and potential litigation. Do I hear a motion? Motion approved. Motion approved by Commissioner Stover. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Davis. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 5-0. Items from the 2 p.m. Planning Commission begin with 2019-01Z. It's application by Joe L. Anderson Jr. for the modification of existing zoning stipulations from zoning case Z2700, the year 2000, to remove stipulation numbers 1 and 3 through 8 to improve development potential of subject property. Property is approximately 2.34 acres in Zone B2 Highway Business. Property is located in Land Lot 615, District 2, Section 3, west of Rosedale Drive, south of Seaboard Avenue in Post 3. Recommendation by the Planning Commissioner was approved 501 with 6 stipulations. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Hart. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Mr. Caker, is there any discussion?
Just for clarity, that was with, the motion was with, approved with the stipulations.
Yes, sir. No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 5-0. 2019-01 SUP of the same piece of property is application by Joe L. Anderson Jr. for a special use permit on approximately 2.34 acres to allow for self-storage with mini warehouse. It's a self-storage facility to include outdoor storage of vehicles. The property is located in Lot 615, District 2, Section 3, west of Rosedale Drive, south of Seaboard Avenue, Post 3. Recommendation was approved 501 with 6 stipulations. Do I hear a motion? Make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Caker. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 5-0.
Question for council, if I could. Is it necessary to specify? I'd like to make a motion, we reconsider the last last item.
All right. So on 2019-01-SUP, just for clarification for the minutes, the approval is of this recommendation with 6 stipulations. 2019-03-Z is application by Paulding County Airport Authority. Terry E. Tibbetts, CEO, to rezone approximately 660 acres from R2 suburban residential to I1 light industrial in order for Paulding County Airport to better reflect the public current land use. The property is located on land lots 303, 304, 325, 326, 327, 328, 374, 375, 376, 377, 378, 393, 394, 395, 396, 446, 447, 448, 449, and 462 in District 9, Section 3, south of the Rock North Highway, which is US Highway 278, at the end of the Airport Parkway, address 730 Airport Parkway in Post 2. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Caker. Is there a second?
I'll say.
Second by Commissioner Stover. Is there any discussion?
So there was a question asked about stipulations being added. And because the airport authority is a government authority, you're going to have to help me out with all this one, okay? The airport authority is not subject to zoning regulations. We put any stipulation in there, or it doesn't matter to them. Because they're not.
As long as the government's the one that's using it, they're not even subject to, how the property is currently zoned. But I think the purpose of the rezoning was just to make it more reflective of what's going on in the
Right. So if there were a stipulation added here to this property, what would be the implementation of the holding B1 to that? Does that become one situation when the government entity is not using the property, like it is leased to someone? Or?
It would be, the question would be, what is the stipulation? So if you're going to add a stipulation to it, then that stipulation, the zoning is conditioned upon whoever has it following that stipulation. Now, it may be a moot point because, again, the government use isn't, you don't need to have the zoning
Right.
to apply in the first place. But I don't think you'd want to have a stipulation that you thought, well, nobody's going to have to comply with that stipulation. So if you put the stipulation on, it is a condition of the zoning that whoever is the owner that has to comply with that stipulation. That makes sense.
So if there is, there's a piece of this property that gets.
But buffers would be set
Yeah,
as you sell
yeah,
it to
that's where I'm going.
someone. Then they'll be given planning and zoning and set buffers in. I mean, I have heavy industrial H2 in the city of Dallas. So anytime, I mean, I've had to do buffers. And anytime we sell a piece of property, they have to, they set different buffers for them too. I mean, it's just part of the comp plan, the process. So, it's not like, I don't think that they're gonna go out there and just clear up to that property line. I mean, I guess Sue's concern is if we sell it to another company, corporation, and locate out there, at that time, the buffers would be set in, right, Chris? Would be set in.
What's the buffer between this and residential?
Good evening.
It's
On
a
the I-1
question today.
On an I-1 district where if I say residentially zoned property, there's a 50-foot buffer. And I know there was a comment about Clear Creek. On the southern side of Clear Creek, this is not property that adjoins, but that property was owned by one back about 12, 13 years ago, and they required an extra buffer on it of 100 feet on that north property. Just
Am I-
That was not between the airport property and...
That's correct. It would be, that is IBA property, and if it's developed and sold off, they would be subject to 100 feet.
I don't have the paperwork from earlier today. Do we, how much of this is shares a border with residential?
All except for the northeast portion of the property, which is IBA property, that is already zoned light industrial. All the remaining portion is R2. So it would encompass the whole perimeter, except for that piece up there.
So is there, I mean, I can get up here and make a motion, but I think just talk about it. Is there an interest in adding on board and adding a stipulation for a buffer between the residential and industrial?
Let me ask this, that's a good question, Ron. We heard Ms. Wilkins' comments. If, this is a question for you, Chris, if in the newly, if it passes the newly designated I-1 that borders an R2, an existing R2, personally owned, people with a residence or whatever, and then a company, ABC company, comes out and wants to build an aircraft repair hangar there. Will they have to come back before the board to do that on airport property, where we can consider it again at that point that maybe you would want to increase the buffer to 100 rather than 50?
That, at this point, if you did sell a portion out there and it's subject to a 50-foot buffer already, as you were selling, the way it's selling currently with the R2, you could not sell that property to another individual to build out there because they wouldn't be exempt as the government. So it's a two-fold thing. If you do add an additional buffer, we would apply it, but at this point in time with the light industrial, if somebody came in, the property was sold, we would hold them to that 50-foot buffer that's required under the current zoning.
If we were to pass a stipulation, include a stipulation for a 100-foot buffer, for example, and the property were to change hands, that stipulation goes with that property until it's rezoned, is that correct?
That is correct.
So I guess we're in a situation now where if property that's bordering residential changes hands with a 50-foot buffer, is there an interest in looking at 100?
Let's get a little more information out on the table here during this discussion time. As we talked about earlier, the FAA has ultimate authority over the airport property that we're considering putting a zoning on there of I-1. And we do have the CEO of the airport here. Maybe, Jerry, you could weigh in on what the requirement would be, if particularly a piece of the newly created I-1 property if it passes tonight.
First, I want to clarify a quote that I was quoted as making, that we're going to clear cut 400 acres of the property. What I'm talking about there is the property that is inside the wildlife fence, which is part of the Part 77 surface, which we are required by the FAA to maintain at 18 inches or less. The inside of the wildlife fence was intentionally set by the FAA to effectively outline that surface. So that makes the inside of the fence a no-tree zone. And that's per requirements from the FAA. And 90 or better % of that is already cleared. It's the 200 acres of the runway itself, the 100 acres for the taxiways and the aprons and so forth. So we're not talking about going in and taking massive amounts of trees out. These are the regenerative pine trees that have grown up in the 10 years since the airport has been built, and we are required to keep those mowed. And in our inspections that we get every other year, the FAA identifies those areas, and they point out, you need to mow this, 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 and this. And that's what we are on track to do. So we're not talking about removing the mature trees that are around the property. We're talking about removing what is inside the wildlife fence, which outlines our Part 77 buffer. Now, that buffer, that Part 77, once you exceed 500 to 1,000 feet, depending on where you are, from the runway, it climbs then at a 7-to-1 slope. And so if a tree is sitting on top of a hill and climbs into that 7-to-1 slope, that tree too has to be cut. Whether it's on the property line, 5 feet from the property line, that's per requirements from the FAA. So you can't just arbitrarily say we will add a 100-foot buffer, because you would have to then go survey what does that do to your requirements. So I would prefer that the requirements be set by the FAA, since it's an airport, and that we not put artificial requirements, which we're exempt from anyway. Every other I-1 piece of property in the county per zoning has a 50-foot buffer minimum anyway. So we would not feel that it's necessary to put additional requirements on this zoning action, and would ask that you approve the zoning as it was recommended by the zoning board. I'll be happy to answer any questions on that.
Any other?
Yeah, so I wasn't, a couple things. First, I understand that they're not subject to any stipulation we had here, and I'm not questioning that. Second, I also understand that the FAA has to be consulted with and approve any transfer of ownership of land that's out there, and I'm not questioning that either. But should there come a time when part of this property is transferred to someone who's not a government entity, and the FAA approves that transfer and is okay with it, that person would then be subject to stipulations. Now, one would have to assume that the FAA would not approve that if there was a situation with a tree growing into that slope that Mr. Tennis defined. But if all that happens, there, you would then have industrial, non-government, operating, bordering residential. And at that point is what I'm talking about with potential buffer. I understand the perimeter fence stuff that you were explaining, and I'm not questioning any of that or any intentions of any of that. But realizing that the government entity here does not apply, and that the stipulation here would only kick in should there be a private owner, should the FAA approve it. My question then to the board is there interest in looking at doing that? And Tom, I don't know if that would need to be a withdrawal of a motion and a new motion made, or if I can make a motion to add it.
You could amend the motion if you want to add stipulations or something. Whoever made the motion, if they had interest, they could withdraw the motion, withdraw the second. That's what amendment, you need a second.
Well, then let's do this. I'll make a motion to.
Hold on a second. We've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Caker with a second by Commissioner Stover with the item, the application as read. So unless Ms. Caker wants to retract her motion, then we need to vote on this.
Well, the attorney just said that we can make a motion to amend.
He has the floor. If you can make a motion to amend the previous motion, it would require a second, and then you would vote on the amendment, and then you would vote on the motion as amended. So,
Okay.
This is the floor. You can make a motion to amend.
You have the floor, Commissioner Davis. What's your amendment?
I would like to make a motion that we amend this motion by adding stipulation number 1, that was a 100-foot buffer between industrial and residential properties.
Okay, we have the amendment, stipulation one that Commissioner Davis just read. Is there a second? Hearing none, the amendment fails for lack of a second. So I'm not going to reread the entire application. Too many numbers in there. But we do have a motion and a second. Give everybody one more chance to make any comments. We'll vote. Hearing no comments, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 5-0. 2019-05-SUP, application by Keith Moon for a special use permit on approximately 20 acres for two-day events for foot races. And that would be 2 races per year with approved vendors. The property is located on land lots 310, 311, 338, and 339, District 3, Section 3, south side of Harmony Grove Church Road, west of Moonlit Trail, and southeast of Dad's Bridge Road at 2462 Harmony Grove Church Road, in post 4. Do I hear a motion? Well,
Motion to approve.
Okay, sorry about that. Recommendation is approval 501. 12 steps, and that's the motion that Mr. Stover has made.
Second motion, Dave.
Okay, second by Commissioner Davis. Is there any discussion? Get your t-shirt yet?
On the meeting.
Okay, no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0, and that's outstanding couple of races. That's the conclusion of the regular business. There's no executive session tonight, no public participation in non-agenda items. It's time to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Davis, second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cater. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.